The UCLA men's basketball season's in full swing, and we need you to get to Pauley Pavilion to support the Bruins. Don't miss a single chance to see this year's exciting team, led by Donovan Dent, Eric Daly Jr., Sky Clark, and Tyler Bilodeau. Pauley Pavilion, presented by Westcon Financials, the home of the greatest tradition in all of college basketball. We can't wait to have you join us as the Bruins continue to build on that legacy. With big-time matchups, go to UCLABruins.com/tickets to secure your seats today before it's too late. Let's get Pauley rocking.
Good afternoon. We're getting right down to business here. We're doing it live, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, right after the Guy Benson Show at 3 and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang. Motec on Money, live on the air on 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at KBC.com, and on-demand podcast, KBC.com, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, all your favorite podcast platforms. Month of February 2026. Now in the Wall Street history books with a pullback for the stock market and cryptos today, but another rally for precious metals and oil with the Middle East in focus. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ both fell in February, each seeing the worst month since tariff turmoil started to pop up last spring. Looks like software businesses took a hit this month. Tech companies and financial firms invested in or threatened by AI. We saw another rough day on Wall Street today to wrap up the week, with the Dow closing down 521 points, back to 48,978. The S&P 500 down 30 at 6879, and the NASDAQ down 210 at 22,668. Looks like the recent worries have triggered several nauseating stock swings in recent weeks, as noted by the Wall Street Journal, some with relatively innocuous catalysts, an incremental update to a particular AI tool, a 7,000-word hypothetical essay on Substack, or a news release from a former karaoke company. The NASDAQ did pull back today, bringing its monthly loss to 3.4% as the tech names continue to get hammered. On the flip side, gold rising today by about 11% this month. That's the biggest monthly increase for gold since January of 2012. Looks like gold has wrapped up the week up more than $100 today at $5,296 and change. Silver also got another pop, getting close to $100 an ounce again, up nearly $7 at $94.39 an ounce. By the way, silver added 18% this month, a record 14 and change. Shares in both Paramount, Skydance, and Netflix taking the spotlight today, both rallying after Paramount Skydance prevailed in the bidding war for Warner Brothers Discovery, as you first heard on this program 24 hours ago. Looks like Netflix had a good day today on that news. It looks like they will not be buying Warner Brothers Discovery, and Netflix coming away with a gain today of nearly $12 a share to $96.24. Paramount Skydance shares at more than $2 at 13 and change. Warner Brothers Discovery down slightly to 28.17. Paramount winning the bidding war for Warner Brothers Discovery, and a big come-from-behind win for Paramount Skydance. We're watching what's happening in the Middle East very closely. The president said today, in his words, "I'd love not to use the U.S. military to attack Iran, but in his words, sometimes you have to." The president also says we've not made a final decision. The president commenting to reporters today after he expressed frustration at Iran's refusal to comply with U.S. demands to eliminate its nuclear program. The president later in a speech in Texas today said of Iran, "We have a very big decision." In his words, he said, "We have a country that's been 47 years blowing people's legs off, arms off." In the president's words, they've been knocking out ships, killing people, lots of people, not only Americans, lots of people. The president said he wanted to make a deal that's meaningful. Meanwhile, the USS Gerald R. Ford, the world's largest aircraft carrier, according to Reuters, has arrived near Israel's northern coast today, near Haifa. The president ordered the carrier strike group to the Middle East earlier this month as part of a massive military buildup while he considers whether to take military action against Iran. Big recall, biggest one that I can recall. Ford is recalling more than 4.3 million pickup trucks and SUVs due to a software issue that could cause trailer brakes not to function. We'll get an update on that and more from Lauren Fix, our go-to car expert. And more wealthy Californians are leaving the Golden State in the face of a possible wealth tax, or so-called Billionaires tax. We'll get an update on that today from Joe Bishop-Henchman, Executive VP at the National Taxpayers Union Foundation. But first, on your money, the markets, and the economy on this big day, I'm delighted to say we have with us live now Steve Forbes, chairman, editor-in-chief of Forbes Media, author of numerous books, including his latest, Inflation, What It Is, Why It Is Bad, and How to Fix It, former Republican presidential candidate, also well-known taxpayer and tax reform advocate. Steve Forbes, thank you very much for taking the call live with us here this afternoon.
Good to be with you, Frank. Thank you very much, and can't wait for the baseball season to start, so we have something to think about. And coming off the great hockey playing by our two teams, it'll be great to look forward to the national pastime. So despite all the grim news around, I'm looking forward to some good news on the mounds.
Wonderful. USA. We celebrated here, certainly, and that's absolutely wonderful. Love to join you for a game one of these days, hopefully a Yankees-Dodger game one of these days, either here or there, by the way. But in the meantime, a lot going on here, and certainly something could come to a head already this weekend related to Iran. Give us your assessment of how the chess pieces are stacking up on the board at the moment.
Well, I think the situation's reached a point where the Ayatollah regime, the Mullah regime in Iran, is not going to be allowed to survive, given their horrific record of terrorism, being terrorism central around the world. They've killed some now 40,000 of their own people, and they've lost all sense of legitimacy. And I think that in the wanton killing that's taken place, we don't move those kinds of assets to a part of the world as we've done now, just for a show of strength and to push negotiations. The Iranians are never going to give up their nuclear program. They're not going to give up their missile program. They're not going to give up their terrorism. Every agreement they've made, they violated, and that's why I think we'll strike. Perhaps it's not a coincidence. Tomorrow there'll be no moon in the skies, and maybe we'll strike as soon as tomorrow. But the regime's days are numbered.
See it tonight, read about it tomorrow, but hear it now on Motac on Money, live on the air with Steve Forbes. And looks like the Gerald Ford near Haifa, which was hit by Iranian missiles during the war that took out Iran's nuclear program. And now you have the USS Gerald Ford potentially creating a screen for Israel there off the coast of Haifa, the port city of Haifa. And then the Abraham Lincoln could be the spear. We got the spear and the shield in place, it seems.
Yes, we do. And unlike what's happened in Venezuela or even the 12-day war in June, this one's going to be much more difficult because the Iranian regime knows this is about survival. And in last June, they thought that they could, even if their nuclear program was severely damaged, which it was, they could live and fight another day. But this one, don't be surprised if those two aircraft carriers are attacked with missiles. And even though it's the idea is absolutely remote, I wouldn't be totally surprised if the Iranians, realizing that a hit's going to come, they fire preemptive missiles to try to inflict casualties on us, either with our ships or our bases in that part of the world. So we've got some very difficult times ahead.
Tough situation that we're going to be watching very, very closely. And if something were to evolve based on the scenario that you just described, either Iran trying to hit us first and or the U.S. Going in there, is this going to be like the Persian Gulf wars we've seen in the past?
Yes, in the sense that they're going to take time, but also the United States and Israel will triumph against the Iranian regime. The mullahs there, the murderous mullahs, recognize some of the truisms of the world, that sometimes friends are only friends when times are good. The Russians haven't done much. The Chinese haven't done much. They know when they have a losing hand. So they'll make nice noises for Iran. They may make some token contributions to Iran, but they're going to step aside and let events unfold.
On the air live with Steve Forbes. In all this, in anticipation of this weekend, we did see a bit of a spike in the price of oil today in New York at around 67 and change, in the low 70s in London. And, of course, the drop we've seen in oil prices has helped tame inflation in the last couple of years now. What do you see ahead for the price of oil if open conflict does break out? And And indeed, what do you see ahead on the inflation front? We got a new reading today.
Yes, first, the new reading today was a disappointment to some. The producer price index was a bit worse than anticipated. It shows that the pressure on prices, for a variety of reasons, including tariffs, is not totally abated. In terms of oil, I think the markets have already priced in something of a disruption with Iran. And I think the markets, even if you get a spike, inventories are fairly low in the world right now. Even if you get a spike, I think the markets are going to anticipate that presumption of oil production and shipments in Iran will resume when the conflict ends. They don't see permanent damage to the fields in Iran. So, yes, you could get a sharp spike, but I think a lot of people will then short oil, realizing that Iran's production will come back when a new regime comes in, because Iran cannot survive right now without those oil flows. I think the economy will, in the future, this is looking down the road, will develop into a very, very vibrant economy. But right now it's severely damaged, and oil's all they've got.
It was just about a week ago that we got the Supreme Court ruling on tariffs. And what's your take on what the Supreme Court did and the fallout since then, with the president unleashing his ambassador tariffs, right? 10% for now. He wants 15%. But what's your view on how this tariff story has played out over the past week?
Well, I was surprised on the Supreme Court, one, by the timing. I thought they'd wait till a few days after the State of the Union, but they didn't. And I was a little surprised that you had three justices rule in favor of the White House on this. But the Constitution's very clear. Only Congress can levy taxes. But Congress can give authority to, with certain procedures, to other means to levy taxes. So that's why when you hear this talk on tariffs, you hear Section 122, 301, 232, and the like. Those are specific things where, for specific reasons, the president can levy taxes, but those levies are sanctioned by law. And so the president's put on that 10 to 15% tariff. That came from Section 122, but it goes away after 150 days. Then any tariffs in the future have to go through established procedures, hearings, and the like. And also, if you want to establish other tariffs, you have to go through Congress. The one good thing out of that, although the White House won't recognize it, is that what tariffs you do get in the future, business people can know that there's certainty about them. Right now, you can have a 50% tariff one day, 10 the next, 30 the next, 100 the day after. And that kind of uncertainty hurts investment. So turmoil short term, but I think having certain procedures, and then when actions are taken, you can count on them being around for a while, I think will help the economy, certainly help business people when they do their planning. They know what the rules of the road are instead of wondering what's going to happen the next day.
On there live with Steve Forbes. In all this, we've seen the price of gold move higher again this week after hitting a record high. Right now we're around just shy of 5,300 an ounce once again, and we see silver just below 100 an ounce here. What do you see happening here with the precious metals?
Well, what happened with gold is, we have to be blunt, is rather ominous. When gold goes up, that means the dollar is weak, and the other currencies of the world are weak. So when you combine weak currencies around the world, you cannot project a scenario, or you can project scenario, but there's no way to predict what actually will unfold. But when you have weak currencies, that's going to have financial turmoil. That's one of the reasons why you have the uncertainty in the stock market. We're all focused now on banks and these private credit providers that emerged because of regulations that hurt bank lending. And now some of those loans those credit companies have made have been called into question. So a lot of uncertainty there. So I hope the hearings will soon begin on Kevin Warsh. That's the man that President Trump has designated to head up the Federal Reserve when Powell's term, who's the current head of the Fed, leaves office in May. The hearings on Warsh should begin soon in the Senate. And I hope that Kevin Warsh will make clear that in the future we're going to focus on having a stable value for the dollar. The current Federal Reserve pays no attention, really, they do, but not much to the value of the dollar in determining policy. I think the markets will be reassured if Warsh makes that clear, that we won't have a repeat, Frank, of what we had in the early part of the 2000s when people thought the administration wanted a weak dollar, and that helped precipitate the crisis of 2007 to 2009. And so weak currencies always bring trouble, especially when it's the biggest currency in the world. So the gold's rising price means the dollar's weak, and it's something that I don't like. It is something we all shouldn't like. And when people buy gold, that means it's less money going for stocks and the like. But it also, it's not so much of an investment, it's people hedging against a weak dollar.
On the Air Live with Steve Forbes, and on this program we speak to the biggest fans of crypto as well as the harshest critics. And as you well know, some of the biggest holders of crypto are sitting on tremendous unrealized losses now. Michael Saylor at Strategy, for example, with his Bitcoin holdings, and then the other guy, Thomas Lee, on the Ethereum side with the Bitmine immersion. What are your thoughts about the performance of cryptos in all of this?
Well, cryptos have been mainly, certainly with Bitcoin, a more of a speculative vehicle. A lot of people saw it as a hedge against inflation. Bitcoin was invented as a high-tech cry for help, because even when it was invented 15, 16 years ago, the people wanted something different from the government. They wanted to be able to move funds without the government snooping in on them. So, but Bitcoin is not a currency because it's too volatile for that. But we do have these so-called stable coins out there, and if they're backed up by real assets, and that's always a thing about having a transparency, so you know whether these things are for real. But right now they're taking a hit, as the dollar's taking a hit. And but the advocates of Bitcoin, I don't own Bitcoin. I own gold, but not Bitcoin. But the advocates of Bitcoin point out that Bitcoin has taken huge hits in the past. And as one advocate puts it, I think Kathy Wood, she points out that every 3 years the trend line is up. Even if it's a violent roller coaster in between, the trend line for years has been upward. So I think those who bought Bitcoin late are going to get wiped out. But those who didn't go with too much in debt or didn't go debt at all to buy Bitcoin will ride out the storm. And Bitcoin, you should go in with money you can afford to lose, and if you want to use it as a hedge. But let me just make a quick prediction for the future, years down the road, and that is I think there'll emerge cryptocurrencies that will be stable in value, tied to something like gold, and you'll start to see something that the government's going to hate, and that is cryptos being an alternative way of doing business rather than with the dollar, using it for commerce. Right now, you wouldn't dare use Bitcoin for a long-term debt. You might use it just to buy something tomorrow, but not for a long-term contract. But I think the technology is coming, and eventually we're going to have emerging alternatives to the monopoly that governments have on money. And one thing we should fight to avoid is the government getting into digital currencies, which would mean a gross invasion of privacy. Everything you do, the government would know. The government in Beijing, obviously Xi Jinping loves that because they love controlling people's lives. But if the Federal Reserve ever tries to really move on that and enact that, we should stop it in its tracks.
Thank you very much for that very thoughtful response, and wish we had more time here, but look forward to speaking with you again as soon as possible. That is the one and only Steve Forbes, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of Forbes Media, the author of numerous books. His latest is Inflation, What It Is, Why It Is Bad, and How to Fix It. Steve Forbes, thank you very much for joining us live here this afternoon.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to the time when we hear the words "play ball."
Yes, me too. Let's do it, and let me know when you're out this way, and hope to see you out here. Unless that billionaire's tax scares you, if you probably don't want to set foot in California with this thing, that's something we can talk about next time. Thank you very, very much for joining us here this afternoon.
Maybe I'll put a disguise on if I come into the state.
Sounds good. Thank you. Anyway, we can do it. Let's do it. 790 KABC.
When you really need care, you need 24/7 access to a care team, not a maze of paperwork from a third party. Every day, America's hospitals and health systems show up for you. Navigating healthcare can feel overwhelming, but you can count on real doctors, real nurses, real people, providing quality, around-the-clock care when you need it most. They're in your corner, in communities across America. Your neighbors, your lifelines, right beside you, holding your hand and helping find answers. That's what putting patients first actually means. Learn more at strengthenhealthcare.org. Brought to you by the Coalition to Strengthen America's Healthcare.
You didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/win.
The UCLA men's basketball season's in full swing, and we need you to get to Pauley Pavilion to support the Bruins. Don't miss a single chance to see this year's exciting team, led by Donovan Dent, Eric Daly Jr., Sky Clark, and Tyler Bilodeau. Pauley Pavilion, presented by Westcon Financials, the home of the greatest tradition in all of college basketball. We can't wait to have you join us as the Bruins continue to build on that legacy. With big-time matchups, go to UCLABruins.com/tickets to secure your seats today before it's too late. Let's get Pauley rocking.
SpaceX preparing to confidentially file for an IPO potentially valued at $1.75 trillion, aiming for a June listing that could raise up to $50 billion, according to a report from Bloomberg today. So we're keeping an eye on that one this weekend. Rough day for the stock market to close out the month of February. The Dow down 521 points at the close today. S&P 500 down 30, and the NASDAQ down 210 points. Gold got another pop today, up more than $100 to $5,296 and change. Silver up nearly 7 at $94.39. Pulling up platinum here, up 136 and change to $2,376 and change. And palladium back to $1,828 an ounce. Netflix getting a pop today after Paramount Skydance won the bidding war for Warner Brothers Discovery. Netflix stock up nearly 12 today to 96 and change. Paramount Skydance up more than 2 at $13.51. Warner Brothers Discovery down 63 cents at $28.17. Bitcoin right now hovering just below 66K. Ethereum at 1931. Doge at 9 cents. Motega Money continues here in 790 KABC. Some breaking news. Los Angeles Unified School District Superintendent Alberto Carvalho has been placed on paid administrative leave pending an investigation after that big FBI raid of his home and the LAUSD's district office headquarters earlier this week. The decision following after LAUSD's board members voted unanimously just a short time ago. ABC 7 reports the board also said that Andres Chait, who currently serves as LAUSD Chief of School Operations, will now serve as LAUSD Acting Superintendent. Stay tuned to 790 KABC for the very latest on that breaking news. More wealthy Californians are leaving the Golden State for places like Texas and Florida in the face of a possible wealth tax, or so-called Billionaires tax. Let's get an update on this now from Joe Bishop-Henchman, Executive Vice President at the National Taxpayers Union Foundation, a taxpayer advocacy organization. Joe, thank you very much for coming to the line here this afternoon.
Great to be with you. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. And, give us your reaction to what's brewing here in California and the fallout that we're already seeing here.
Yeah, well, it builds on a trend. About 1.6 million Californians have moved out of California in the last 5 years. And not all that's taxes, obviously, but taxes are a big part of that. And now we're seeing some of the wealthiest and richest relocating just to get ahead of this potential ballot initiative because it has an effective date retroactive to the beginning of this year. So you had to leave now, even though it hasn't been voted on, even though it's not even yet on the ballot, but it's already causing enough problems to make that happen.
Have we ever seen anything like this in other states?
No, not really. This would be the first, I've heard this described as the first politically viable wealth tax proposal in the United States. These have been introduced, but by legislators who don't really have a lot of traction. But this is the first one where there is a high likelihood it will get on the ballot, and then a high possibility of passage if it does. And certainly would be a sea change. I think the proponents are hoping that it would be a sea change. So it's going to become something California is known for.
Isn't that something? So it's been described also as a confiscatory measure to confiscate people's wealth, basically.
Yeah, and so I think that's the almost what the proponents are proposing. Now it's structured as a one-time 5% tax to pay for ongoing health care and education expenses. And most public finance experts will tell you that that's a bad way to pay for recurring costs, this one-time tax. So either it's not going to be one time, or it's going to fund a bunch of important, vital programs, but just for 1 year. And then what do we do after that year is over?
And have you taken a look at who's behind this measure?
I think it's one of the healthcare unions is part of their negotiations with the budget. Yeah, exactly, that one. And I think part of it is maybe they're using it for negotiating leverage with their employers and with the state, which pays a lot of the expenses. It's a pretty harmful way of doing negotiations. So it's really unfortunate.
So according to their website, this tax would be paid only, and I'm quoting the thing here now, only by Californians worth more than $1 billion, which is about 200 people who had a combined wealth of $2 trillion. There's concern here if it starts this way, it could trickle down just like the whole tax system started out.
Yeah, the federal income tax famously was originally only on the very richest in the United States. But it didn't take too long for that to become a mass wealth tax. So too with the California income tax, which originally started at a very low level and is now much higher. So people, I think people know that something may start as a one-time tax only on very wealthy people, but can quickly become a mass tax once it's embedded in the Constitution and embedded in the law, which this initiative would do.
I want to also get your reaction to what happened with you're also an attorney, I see, so I want to get your reaction to the Supreme Court decision on the president's tariffs and the fallout on that since we've seen that.
Yeah, so we've been we did a brief in the case in order to help strike those down. So the right now there's an ongoing fight over the refunds. About 70,000 different refund actions have been filed by people that have paid the tariffs or collected the tariffs, and so those are working their way through the court system. And then the president, of course, has, as the dissenters suggested that he do, have moved to existing authorities in law, which require a bunch of procedural steps, and so he's been carrying those out, and we expect litigation on some of those items as well, because they're for instance, one of them that he's using right now it can only be used when the United States is facing a problem paying its bills to international countries, which is not really the case right now. We have a lot of problems in this country, but that's not one of them.
Right, not yet anyway, right? But stay tuned. Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. So now there's a 10% global tariff in place that the president wants to increase to 15%. That, too, will likely be challenged, if not already. How do you see all this play out?
So all of these will probably go back to the Supreme Court, and it's the same Supreme Court that looked very skeptically at the first round. So our position at NTU, National Taxpayers Union, and I think the position of a lot of people is that this is legislating and it should be done by Congress. So whatever you think of tariffs, if they're going to happen, it should be Congress passing a law about it and not just the president issuing executive orders.
All right. We've talked about people going to Texas and Florida and so forth. Where are the ports and the tax storm here in California? Anecdotally, where are your smart friends going?
They're going to sunny places, and obviously Florida attracts a lot of people, Texas a lot of people, but states that you don't often hear about, Tennessee, a lot of people going to Tennessee, Arizona, of course, Wyoming I'm hearing about a lot more, Montana I'm hearing about a lot more, and people are not moving from California to Montana for the weather. They're moving because of cost of housing, cost of taxes, cost of regulation, and so forth. And it's all very personal to me. I grew up in San Diego, went to school in the Bay Area, and moved out of the state partly because of the public policy situation that I saw there. So I'm always rooting for California, and I'm an optimist for California. I want California to be where people are moving into, not moving out of. But we've talked about some of the challenges to that.
Reminds me of what Dr. Arthur Laffer once told me, who was heartbroken to have to leave California, left San Diego before the financial crisis. I believe he left back in 2007. Loved California, of course, was President Reagan's economic advisor, and he packed up and moved to Tennessee, and that's where he's been ever since. A very similar story.
Yeah, exactly. And Tennessee, no income tax and a lot of job growth, a lot of economic activity. A lot of music, I guess. But I really do hope California is able to turn around, but it's going to be having to walk away from some of these very alarming proposals like this proposed ballot initiative.
Well, Joe, great to connect with you here. Thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon. We wish you all the best in all of your efforts, and thanks for standing up for taxpayers. That is Joe Bishop-Henchman, who happens to be Executive Vice President at the National Taxpayers Union Foundation. What's your website there, Joe?
NTU.org. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us live here on Motec on Money on 790 KABC.
The UCLA men's basketball season's in full swing, and we need you to get to Pauley Pavilion to support the Bruins. Don't miss a single chance to see this year's exciting team, led by Donovan Dent, Eric Daly Jr., Sky Clark, and Tyler Bilodeau. Pauley Pavilion, presented by Westcon Financials, the home of the greatest tradition in all of college basketball. We can't wait to have you join us as the Bruins continue to build on that legacy. With big-time matchups, go to UCLABruins.com/tickets to secure your seats today before it's too late. Let's get Pauley rocking.
It's the biggest game on the planet, and nobody breaks it down like Jim Rome.
Super Bowl run. Who do you think will be the last one standing this year?
Fearless debate and the best callers in sports.
I don't care what you say, defense wins Super Bowl.
That defense absolutely is Super Bowl caliber. The quarterbacking sure as hell wasn't.
He's the Spitfire of sports smack.
A lot to get to, and I'm not sure you're going to like all of it. Honestly, I don't even care if you like all of it or not. I have a job to do.
The Jim Rome Show.
Get up in here.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Motec on Money continues here on 790 KABC. Recapping the breaking news this hour, LA Unified School District Superintendent Alberto Carvalho has been placed on paid administrative leave pending an investigation after the FBI raided his home and the LA Unified School District's office headquarters earlier this week. Stay tuned. Big recall announced in the car business. In fact, the biggest recall that I can recall in recent times. Ford is recalling more than 4.3 million pickup trucks and SUVs, some of the most popular vehicles in the country, due to a software issue that could cause trailer brakes not to function. Now that comes after another recall involving Explorer SUVs. Let's bring in the expert on all of this, and that is the one and only Lauren Fix, the co-host of the Drive Car Show syndicated radio program, as well as the founder of Car Coach Reports. Lauren, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Yeah, I think it's important that no matter what brand you have, if there's a recall, that you get in front of it. That means you contact the service department, you have your vehicle identification number with you, and you say, hey, is my car involved in this? In this particular case, there actually has been larger recalls, airbag recall, the unintended acceleration, the ignition switches. There's been a lot of recalls. And it's not because cars are built poorly, it's because they become more of a software. There's computers, there's processors, and all of that wasn't in cars back in the 60s and 70s. If there was a recall, it would have been like a latch not working. In this case, this is something that's very common. It's called trailer brakes. If you've ever towed a trailer and it's up over 5,000 pounds, you need something called trailer brakes. They're electric trailer brakes. You squeeze the horizontal slide to engage the brakes, and if they're not working, that could be a problem because the trailer will continue going at speed as you slow the vehicle down, could cause the trailer to disconnect, flip over, or potentially jackknife, which would mean the trailer would try to come around on you. And I've towed a lot of trailers over my lifetime, but this is a big one. 4.3 million pickup trucks. Now, it's important to know what they are. And if you've got one, like I said, write your vehicle identification number down, call your local Ford dealer, say, is my car under this recall? And if so, they'll take care of it. And I would not, and if you are under that recall, don't tow anything until you get it fixed. 2021 to 2026 to brand new F-150s is on the list. That's huge, but it's only certain trim levels. So it's important you check that out. Also, 2022 to 2026 Super Duty trucks, which includes the one that I own. I have an F-150 or an F-350, so it's a 1-ton truck. So I'm going to do the exact same thing, call and see if my Super Duty truck is under the recall. In 2024, 2026 Rangers, 2022 to 2026 Expeditions, which my daughter owns one of those, Mavericks, Lincoln Navigators, and 2026 transit vehicles. Now, a transit vehicle is like a bus. It's like a little bus. If you have one, usually they're used for commercial applications. Typically, they're not towing, but they could be if you're using them for schools or churches to tow a small trailer. But these are important to get in front of. And if you ever wondered, I have a Honda or I have a Nissan, how do I know if I have a recall? It's really easy. Go to your favorite browser, put the year, make, and model in, and then write this word down, recall, and hit return. And you'll see a list of recalls. They may not all apply to you, but at least you can call and say, hey, is this recall? And there's a number. You write the number down, 25-322, does that affect my car? They can tell you. If you have a problem and it's not listed on the recall list, and like, wow, this is a serious problem, you go to safercar.gov, which is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA. They document all that, and when there's more than one, if they've got 4 or 5 different people, because they're going to need your vehicle identification number, they then approach the car manufacturer and say, you need to look into this. And they pressure them to make a recall. Typically, brands will do a recall prior to NHTSA getting a hold of them. Another thing you can do, again, year, make, model, put in the word TSB. T as in Tom, S as in Sam, B as in boy. It's Technical Service Bulletin is what it stands for. And you will find any little inherent issues that they will repair free of charge. It is not a recall. They're not typically safety. They're more like little issues that are driving you crazy, like something doesn't work, or my center screen goes dark sometimes, or I get this weird light on my dash and then it goes away. All of that would be under the Technical Service Bulletin. And again, you can ask your favorite dealer, your local dealer. It doesn't have to be the one you purchased it at. Can you help me? And they can look it up for you pretty quickly.
That is terrific information. On there live with Lauren Fix, our go-to car expert. So if you have one of these pickup trucks or Super Duty trucks or one of these big SUVs with a styrofoam coffee cup on the dashboard and everything, and hardworking people have these vehicles, this is very important information to get that vehicle checked out with this latest recall. Is this indeed one of the biggest recalls that you can recall?
It is one of the larger ones. It's not the largest ever. I would say the airbags, the Takata airbags, which a lot of people went and got new airbags installed, and it was across multiple brands, not one specific brand. And we've seen recalls from Toyota, Honda, GM, Stellantis. Stellantis just had a stop sale for all their 4xe lines. So if you have the number on the back of your car, it's the number 4X, and the little lowercase e, that's called a 4xe. Those all are stop sale. Those are all under recall. Again, if you haven't heard about it, or you have a friend that has one of these vehicles, you should let them know, because these are the type of safety features, including things in the Jeep case, was actually caught fires with batteries because they were hybrids and they're having problems. They completely did a stop sale on it, and they have removed them from their website. So if you're thinking you want to buy one of these vehicles, you cannot get one.
All right. And the other interesting story, I know you've been following this one on your YouTube channel, that a number of car companies are fighting against California's EV mandate. What's the very latest on that?
Well, it's funny. California, as all the states, lost their $7,500 tax credit. And so Gavin Newsom has decided that he wants to put up the money for 5 years to see if he can get people to purchase electric vehicles. There's a lot of restrictions on it. You can't make over a certain amount of money. The weird thing is when you say it's $7,500 tax credit, you have to have that much in taxes. So if you make under $100,000 a year, you probably don't have $7,500 in taxes. And so you have to be really careful in the small print, especially in California. So he's trying to mandate that the companies match that $7,500. So Ford, GM, and Stellantis all sent their representatives to Sacramento to say, no, we're not going to match your $7,500. And honestly, if it were me and I were one of these brands, I would say we're not going to sell our vehicles in California. We'll sell them in all the other 49 states. If you're going to force me to have to match that $7,500 in order to make these vehicles affordable, because they're taking a loss on every car. So why would they want to take a bigger loss and add an additional $7,500? That's currently in the courts. All the car manufacturers are pushing back. They don't want to do this. So let's see where it goes. But right now, the California Air Resources Board, we're waiting for that to get in front of the Supreme Court, where they're likely to lose a lot of their powers. And that will be something that Lee Zeldin is working on. I'm expecting to hear about that very soon. And of course, I'll be reporting on that on Car Coach Reports on my YouTube channel. And all my car reviews, of course, are on Car Smarts.
That's terrific, Lauren. And just about a minute left here. Here we are at the end of the month. Is this a good weekend to buy a car?
Absolutely, at the end of the month. There's not a lot of cars under $20,000, but there are a lot of new cars, especially ones that aren't being produced anymore. This is your opportunity. Go on the lot, see what they've got. What's been sitting there the longest is what you want to ask. What vehicle's been sitting here the longest? That's the one you want to make a negotiation on, because that's the one that they really, truly want to get rid of, because it costs them money every month to have it sit there. So the real popular ones, like a brand new Kia Telluride or a brand new Hyundai Palisade, you're not going to get a deal on it. But there are deals on a lot of other vehicles from literally every brand. It's just a matter of you deciding which vehicle is right for you. Buy it before the first of the month, because once the first of the month hits, the prices aren't negotiable.
Lauren, thank you very much for taking the call here. That is our go-to car expert, Lauren Fix, the co-host of the Drive Car Show syndicated radio program, as well as the founder of Car Coach Reports on YouTube. And thank you very much, Lauren, for joining us live here on Motec on Money on 790 KABC. Wrapping up the month of February with losses, the Dow down 521, the S&P 500 down 30, and the NASDAQ down 210. Gold, meanwhile, rising just shy of $5,300 an ounce, and silver is just below $95 an ounce. Stay tuned now for the News Blitz here on 790 KABC.
The UCLA men's basketball season's in full swing, and we need you to get to Pauley Pavilion to support the Bruins. Don't miss a single chance to see this year's exciting team, led by Donovan Dent, Eric Daly Jr., Sky Clark, and Tyler Bilodeau. Pauley Pavilion, presented by Westcon Financials, the home of the greatest tradition in all of college basketball. We can't wait to have you join us as the Bruins continue to build on that legacy. With big-time matchups, go to UCLABruins.com/tickets to secure your seats today before it's too late. Let's get Pauley rocking.